on my deathbed, am I going to sit there and have regret? I never gave it like my fair shot of what I feel like I could do.
Yeah.
And if I really, you got to answer that question honest within yourself. And if the answer is, yeah, to have regrets, well, then there's your answer. So if people are listening to this and like, yo, I'm all about the hustle and grind. I don't know, man. You got to have to balance that out a little bit with what is going to sustain you. I have to be comfortable with the pace that I'm running. If you eliminate the journey, you eliminate the power of the song.
This is Brandon with The Blueprint, sponsored by Smoking Gun. Today we've got Brandin Reed, musical genius and explorer, and I'm excited to hear what he's got to say because this dude does everything, and he does it well. Stay tuned. First time.
Quite an introduction, baby. Let's go.
First time. First time, every time. No, but not about you in general. First off, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, dude.
Music has always been the thing?
Pretty much, bro. I didn't really have a choice. It was more so out of necessity. When you wake up and you're 10, 11 years old and underneath the Christmas tree is an acoustic guitar, you're like, oh, wow. That spark is there, but then you realize, oh, it's from mom and dad's home church.
Okay, all right.
So we need a band.
Yeah, they were growing the band for the church.
Oh yeah, man.
In-house, free.
Yeah. My folks were nomads, dude. Both my parents passed away years ago, but yeah, I mean, my story, especially in the business world, really stems and was rooted in my upbringing, and particularly my father was this radical ex-dope fiend, heroin addict out of San Quentin Penitentiary in the 60s. So he did about 16 calendar years there. And when he got out in 68 or 69, he got radically, he went all in for God.
Yeah.
And changed his life. So here I am. I'm the last of his litter. I got older brother. My dad was 48 when he had me.
Wow.
So a lot of my hustle and a lot of what I do really was just kind of fortunate,
Yeah.
Just kind of fortunate. Yeah.
That's wild, man, because I've known you for quite some time now. Our wives are and have been friends forever. Used to be besties, but I'm sure they would not like me saying they're not besties anymore. But but used to hang out pretty significantly, and
our kids.
So you and I, and the kids too. So kids the same age. So came to know you through that, and did not know any of that because you live a very different lifestyle now than what that presents.
I do, man. I mean, the Bible says that when you'll leave, your parents be joined to your wife. I think there's some truth to that. You know what I'm saying? Like I sort of married up as you did,
Yeah.
But man, I kind of just kind of at a young age just always felt like I could just take on the world, not in an arrogant sense, but just like, why not me? I can do that. Why not? Well, it's not done like that, Brandon. Well, why not? I'm going to do it. I kind of just always had that inside of me. I didn't have necessarily the wisdom in writing that out. And I'm still learning that to this day, but I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to becoming, if I can ever arrive at what I'm trying to do, I'm just in a constant state of sort of reinventing myself and kind of making myself fit in ways that are conducive to my family and my dreams.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that all stems from my father and his upbringing. He was just a radical, outlandish, loud, bold, changed ex-drug addict.
Okay.
And so, I was raised like that. He straight up would be, typical fathers that sit down and teach their kids. My dad taught me and scolded me with prison terms.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But had a great relationship with him, loved him, and made a big impact on my life. That's that photo I got back there.
This is him in the middle?
That's him in the middle, man. So he wasn't part of any religious organization, wasn't part of a church. This is back in the Jesus People movement. He was one of the guys that kind of started that whole thing. So this is probably Huntington Beach. And he would just go out by himself, maybe one other person with a guitar, and he would just start preaching.
Where'd the height come from?
Mom's side.
Mom's side?
Yeah.
She a tall lady?
No, her Her father was.
Yeah.
But yeah, my dad was always, he was about maybe 5'9", 5'10". Yeah.
That's crazy. And you're what, 6'3",
6'4", maybe 6'3".
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother's about 6'5",
yeah,
6 maybe.
Yeah, drastic.
Yeah, man. That's where the music comes from, and it's just been a journey ever since. I cut my teeth in music and really in AA groups.
Wow. Okay.
Because my father would run an AA group called Overcomers. It was just a bunch of ex-drug addicts and prostitutes and everything else. And I'd come into the church, and he just loved on them. And so it'd be like, grab your guitar, we're going to sing. And that, and street corners and prisons. And
so he was out evangelizing, and he had you as background music, and you're coming with me. You're going to see these people. You're going to see everything. And
no, it was just, he'd use anybody and anything to get people's attention.
Okay.
So the idea of, I think his philosophy was, if I throw you in front of people and I don't give you a heads up, you're more likely to just stumble into it without any sort of game plan and hesitancy,
Right.
So I do that a lot to this day with people, even my family, when it comes to other things.
Yeah.
I'm like, just do it.
Yeah. No, I think you and I have a very similar mindset when it comes to just figuring things out, or, it gets dropped in your lap and people are like, I need a plan, I need this, I need structure. And it's like, the first person to do this has no structure. Like, why can't we take that path? Now, once it's repetitive, for sure. But if you're groundbreaking on something, there's no path for that.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a yin and yang, kind of like, I don't need the structure to get me going, but oh shoot, I need the structure.
Yeah, once you get moving, I surround myself with people who are super buttoned up. So
I need introduce me some of those cats later. Huh? I need some of that.
So did you take musical lessons, or he was musical himself, or you just
my mom?
Your mom was musical.
So my mom played the organ and the guitar and the accordion and things like that. She had a great ear. So just like in church, if I'm playing in the front row as my dad's preaching in Los Angeles or something, and I'm messing with GoBots and I'm making noise, she'd have me come up and sit with her on the organ bench, and I just listened to the Leslie speaker as she'd play gospel. And she was really, really dope. And she'd always sing harmony, never sing the melody. And so it's just sort of like it just stick in my head. So when it came time to like sing harmony, I was like, yeah, I can just sing harmony. Those kind of things that just sort of, just sort of intrinsic, so to speak. Yeah.
So for the person or the family that is ex-con, religious, sidewalk, music.
Yes, dude.
Like, what's the music choice for you guys at the house? Like, what's that about?
Dude. My mom was strict, bro.
Okay.
Like, turn that off. You ain't listening to that. I mean, my dad was very listening to jazz and like listen to these scales. He played the saxophone, things like that. But he was very much into like rhythm and blues and that kind of thing, where my mom was just straight up Foursquare gospel. Wouldn't smoke a cigarette with your lips, like she was just straight and narrow. Yeah. She was the one that was raising me. But the musical idea, I remember as a kid, man, in Los Angeles where I grew up, I lived in Whittier, California, and my brother, he's a few years older than me. He's with a friend, and I was at the time into Christian music, and back then, dude, you didn't have anything. You had the most hokey Christian stuff,
right? Yeah,
but I would love it, and I would grab the vinyl and I'd pick it up and I'd ride my bike with the stack of vinyls and go find my brother and his friend in the neighborhood. And I remember approaching my brother; it's like a burned image in my mind. And I come up and he sees me with these Christian records. He's like, "Get out of here with that, man! What are you doing, you idiot? Get out of here!" Yeah. But I just never thought anything of it. I just was like,
"Got a handful of striper here, dog. You don't know what I got."
I got a handful of striper, dude. No, striper was later. This is back in like, you won't even know these people. I just digress. It's like James Taylor and all these, rap records. It was just, oh God, it was probably just atrocious. But to me, I was just sort of like bold about it, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, the music selection. Later on, when I got married.
Wait. That's a big jump, right? You went from like riding a bicycle to like when I got married.
Hey, you got married at 12. No.
So Pops was like, what was his music taste?
Dude. Okay, so my dad was into like Andre Crouch, like these old, like there's some old time gospel people that he rolled with. Because my father he told me he never wanted to be professional. So It's like, I never wanted to be professional. I could have ran the circuit and the whole Christian thing. He was a famous evangelist that would go around. But he just had friends, and especially, in the Black church, and just like I grew up in La Puente, California, and like a lot of Mexican Hispanic culture around me. So other kids are like, going to the beach and living off the coast. I'm living in East LA and eating menudo for breakfast, and I just grew up in this very multi-ethnicity type of, and so it kind of rubbed off, and the places that I would go play music at, I couldn't just play the same thing to the same audience. They were different backgrounds. So if he's taking me to the Bronx in New York, I'm not going to play some hokey white charisma. I need to play something like that. So he kind of sort of formed me in that way to be versatile, and it's just kind of like a blessing, but also like, man, it's hard to find my own lane.
Your roots.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So he loved all kinds of music, man, but he was into like jazz. Yeah.
So when you started getting into music and finding out your own taste, it was always, mom didn't let you, was there any like,
oh no, just like any young kid, they're going to just branch off and rebel.
You had the Beastie Boys up in that bad boy?
Dude, are you kidding me?
Yeah. No, I'm not.
Now I'd like to introduce. Yeah. Yeah, dude. The Beastie Boys, I mean, Sabotage, and that whole era was like, I was plagiarizing that stuff, like big time. And then, but then there's a side of me that I really love, like James Taylor, or, I lived in my dad moved us from LA to Phoenix and then finally up to Portland, Oregon. So I caught that whole alternative scene before everybody else did, and shoot, man, stick around long enough, you'll listen to all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I
mean, my folks had me somewhere in like between the Bee Gees, and my brother had me with the Beastie Boys, and my, somewhere with Beat Street, and like there was just so much stuff in there that was just like so eclectic for us. And the reason I'm asking is because a lot of guys kind of meld their sound, meld their things of the different types of music they listen to. It just becomes a little bit of everything. So like, hey man, I really like what they're doing in that genre right there. I want to incorporate that here. Are there threads of stuff that that you're pulling from other genres?
Yes. I mean, it's kind of part of you. I find that when it comes to music production, like I've been doing a lot of music producing lately, the last several years. And so I can do a lot of sync stuff or a lot of film kind of type of string arrangement stuff that I just sort of hear. And it's gone pretty well. And so I can kind of pull from that. I wonder, where's that come from? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's love for a lot of cinematic stuff that moves me. And then I can also kind of, I was, when I was first starting graphic design, because both of us come from the same field, I remember I started off in Photoshop 2 or 3. Mid 90s maybe. And we'd run a Photoshop filter, and I'd be doing like large form or, big print jobs, right? You take the stuff to a press shop with the blueprint and everything and the whole 9 yards. But you run Photoshop filters and you have to lay down for a few minutes as the hourglass went and you're doing your thing. But
hourglass, I forgot about the hourglass.
My mentor, who I kind of taught me all this stuff, would throw manuals at me and be like, when he was, tired of me picking his brain and asking questions, read the manual. So that developed in me like a self sort of like learn for yourself.
Figure it out.
Before YouTube University came around, you just had to like do all that. But that guy, his name was Richard Nugent. He played so much Bob Dylan. I mean, it was Bob Dylan every second of the day. And I was like, dude, I can't stand this guy. But then it was like a fine wine, like acquiring wine, taste. It's like, oh, I love this guy. And then his lyrics were just crazy, man. I mean, I think and I'm always discovering he's got such a catalog, over 50 records over years. And then he's just the most interesting guy that you've ever met. He's got a lyric on, what's the song? It's All Right, Ma, or something like that. A song that says, he not busy being born is busy dying. I mean, like that's a line.
It's really amazing when you find somebody who's a lyricist, because there's people who make, bass lines and beats and, songs that from that direction, the production side of it. And there's guys who are incredible singers, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the people who are incredible writers. Rarely do you have all three of those things that kind of come together, And so you see somebody like Bob Dylan, for example, not a great singer.
No.
Great writer.
Right.
Great songwriter.
Yeah. They said the number one song of all time via Rolling Stone is Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone. I mean, if you listen to it, it's nothing like crazy about it, but just the breakthrough at that time was like, you couldn't fit him in a box. He's like, categories are corny. Like, don't put me in that thing. And he was I really like him as a model because it wasn't so much like he's manifesting his destiny. He's like thinking about it and orchestrating it in a way and manufacturing it or reverse engineering it to where we're all taught via entrepreneurship today. But it was more so about just, I'm in the constant state of becoming. And as an artist, I'm forever reinventing, evolving. And my wife tells me, she'll have conversations with her friends and she'll say, yeah, I told my husband, I don't think he's ever going to stop.
Why should you?
But I'm like, what do you mean? Like, stop when? Like, is there a time where I'm like, okay, I've arrived at a place where I feel like I've written enough songs or I've done enough business endeavors. I feel, significant, or I feel like I've arrived. I think so. I think I'll be content at some point, but then I'll probably have something else that I, like you, with your painting, with all the stuff you're doing. It's like, what makes you grind 80 hours a week?
Yeah. I to be quite honest, and I've said this story a few times, but I lost a friend in my early 30s.
I remember your buddy skiing.
Yeah. And it made a mark on me, to be quite honest. Like, I never thought that he was the picture of health, athletic guy,
right?
Good family, doing everything the way that you should be doing, and then gone on a freak accident.
Right.
And it rocked my foundation.
How old were you at the time? You were like
early 30s, right? It's been gone 13 years now, so 34, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here and I'm like, what time do I have to waste? I don't. Like, how do I make sure that I've given everything that I've given in this life that I've been blessed with, right? Like, the way that you think, like, my mind is not my mind. My mind is there to cultivate and make better and stronger and sharper, but I wasn't given that. I was given that tool, your passion, your desire, your thoughts, like all of that stuff is there to be cultivated, but I didn't make it. And so am I going to make the most of what I've been given in every opportunity? My health. There's so many people that struggle with their health. I haven't had that problem.
Right.
I got nothing holding me back from making the most of what I have.
Right.
So push, and I've decided, like, it really rocked me at that point when that happened, to think like, this dude had everything going for him too, and it was still gone. So
exactly,
leave your mark.
Hey, dude.
Let people know you existed. Let people in your family feel what you have. If you have something on your heart, you have something on your mind, make sure you express that through whatever medium if it's singing, if it's artwork, if it's talking to a microphone, if it's whatever, welding, I don't care.
Right, exactly.
Push.
Exactly.
It's so short.
Do you think that's inside of everybody?
I don't know. I don't know that everyone's come across a moment to define them,
Yeah, I think that's part of the recipe, to be honest. I mean, maybe I've never met a young person who just inclined to their parents' ear after their wisdom and just went with it.
Right.
They're a rarity. I got one of them out of three that
yeah.
And the other two are finding themselves in their own journey, which I love them. But yeah, I think I tell people, like, I explain it like this. I say, there's two things, maybe three. There's two things that'll make you do things and make moves and make decisions quicker than you normally would. Those big, I've always aspired to be this, or I want to do this, and things hold you back. Well, what pushes you to that? What'll kind of thrust you, fast forward you in that decision process? One is losing somebody you love. That will do it. My parents were older. I knew when I was in my 30s they'd pass away, and I've grown up older siblings. So I see that just kind of like older years, and I'm like, And the other thing, second thing would be wrinkles. And the third, 2.5, three things would be your hairline, you know. But I mean, you that's a little bit vain. But you tongue in cheek, you look at that and you think,
notice,
dude, I'd asked myself I was a worship pastor for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I always did business on the side, but not fully committed until, really the start of that was like 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm older.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to ask myself, and I ask myself to this day, and continue to branch out with other endeavors. Okay, if I didn't do this is a little bit morbid, but I'm a pretty extreme guy. On my deathbed,
Mm-hmm.
am I going to sit there and have regret?
Mm-hmm.
I never gave it like my fair shot of what I feel like I could do.
Yeah.
And you got to answer that question honest within yourself. And if the answer is, yeah, to have regrets,
Mm-hmm.
well, then there's your answer.
Mm-hmm.
And the trick of living that out is, how do I balance that with the people I love around me?
Mm-hmm.
How does it not engulf me? How does it not suffocate everybody else and push everybody else out?
Right.
And that's, to me, is the trick of finding that balance with your family and
Mm-hmm.
doing all that in a way that's sustainable.
And finding somebody that will survive that with you, bro.
That's real talk
I
right there, bro.
I can't even imagine
Yeah, man.
living with me.
Yeah.
You know
me
what I mean?
too, me too.
That's a shout out, Kelly. But honestly, like, I can't even imagine, like, I'm busy all the time.
Yeah.
I can't even sit down in my own house.
Yeah. That's something you got to attend to.
We have to schedule some TV time.
Yep.
She's like, hey, there's a series I want to watch.
Yeah,
Will you sit on the couch with me and us have a date night?
Oh, your wife talks to my wife then, huh?
Yeah. And I'm like, yes, ma'am, I will. Right. And so we sit down and we'll watch a show or whatever.
Yeah.
And that series will be over. And here I am, like, going back to whatever I was doing, like, full time,
Yeah.
And so, but even when we're having dinner, we're having people, we're talking in the living room, I've got these little characters that I'm hand painting all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And I've got little projects that I put everywhere that I'm just like, while I'm sitting idle here, do this.
You idle high.
Oh, man.
You up here. Most people are down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just don't like to sit flat,
No, dude, we're cut from the same cloth in that regard. Yeah, you just got that little Texas sauce on there is what you got. You got. Yeah. I remember I was with you. So if you don't know Brandon, so B has like these Texas sayings, man. There's one, we were golfing and it was funny. He said, my dad always telling me, take your hat off, son, the breeze is free. It's just random stuff like that. I swear but you got that kind of charm about you that I think that's probably why Kelly sticks around.
Well, I love her to death, and happy to have someone in my life that will truly be there. I mean, she's my ride or die, man. Like, it's really crazy. She knows I'd do anything for her, but we're all just human beings at the end of the day. And like, we all are kind of a little bit terrible, trying to be better.
Yeah, we're imperfect.
We're imperfect. Right. And so,
right.
When you have somebody that, like, I've never said a cuss word to my wife. I've never called her a name. I've never done anything, because you have to have someone in your life that you hold to a higher account than everybody else. Mm-hmm. I would never, ever cross that line with her, because the way that she looks at me.
Holy, I'm high.
But honestly, like, I really believe, like, that's the reason we're there. And I always tell her, like, I can't believe you're with me. And she's like, well, I'm here because of the way you treat me. What
do you think, dude? Like, I mean, I know a lot of people. What's interesting is there's a lot of people that I'm like, oh man, they've made it, they've arrived, they're at a status, they're coasting. But then those people that I've been fortunate to have my foot in the door with them via writing or just relationship wise, they envy my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have what they have as far as what the world would deem as success or metrics or accolades that qualify you, that say you arrived. But they're looking at my life, and what they look at me is, music opened the door, and that's what kindled the relationship. But what they admire, I think, is just like my family, my peace of mind.
Yeah.
And I'm balance. Like, should I be really pushing that hard, or do the things I have in front of me, am I not saying so much of what I should attribute to? Is like, oh, that's success. Mm-hmm. So there's that I deal with in my heart too. You know what I mean? As you get older, in little things like, I really enjoy playing golf. I know you're a big time golfer. This guy can golf. I can golf, but Brandon Brandin can golf.
That's yesteryear talk.
Hey, I don't know if you hit the big 5-0 yet, but I looked at the qualifications of senior tour, what it would take. Like it's not impossible, but there's like the whole Q school and the whole local qualifying. You kind of stepped into that a little bit. I haven't gone that far, but I love golf. You love golf. And my daughter just started picking up golf. Now, if I just didn't leave any room at all and I was just glory a me, I was just focused on my own life and I was tunnel vision all the time, man, I'd be missing out on so much gratification of what my daughter is getting at 15, just picking up golf.
Right.
It's like, dude, we went out and played. I had her go to the range with me 25 times, not playing one round yet. 25 times, couple buckets each time, hour and a half, 2 hour sessions. 3 lessons with the PGA Pro. Her shout out to, Michelle. What's her last name?
Mabel.
Michelle Mabel. Yeah. Anyway, she's PGA. She's up here in Dallas. If you look her up, but her coach was the guy that coached Scotty Scheffler. So I'm like, she's the one. She's a girl. She's young. So I put her with Aviva, my daughter. And so 3 professional lessons, 25 range sessions, new clubs, the whole 9 yards. Played our first round at Bridlewood down the road, nine holes. Now, of course, there was a lot of shanks and a lot of different things, but a couple times she got the bug, bro, because she hit that little 7-iron on a par 3 over the lake. It bounced in the back of the green, stopped. Yeah. And I looked at her and I was like, it's done.
Yeah, it's over. It's over. It just takes one.
It just takes one pure shot. And then, but her tenacity and she's cried on the range because she keeps pushing everything right. And I just I had to hug her, be like, hey, listen, we're going to work through this together. I got you. And I look back and I think, man, as much as my father pushed me in ways that he knew to his capability, because he was just, came from the streets. Yeah. He did what he knew. Imagine what I could, that time is so valuable. So, so if people are listening to this and like, yo, I'm all about the hustle and grind. I don't know, man. You gotta have to balance that out a little bit with what is going to sustain you. What's going to sustain you, bro? Because that's fleeting. That's gone. You made it. Now what? Who's around you at the end of your road? Right. You know what I'm saying? And I think like you with losing your buddy and then me losing my folks and just having to be confronted with that, you're like, you're able to see stuff that maybe not everybody has kind of a benefit of seeing in those low times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I take a lot of compartmentalization, right? I try to take my life in segments, and I'm probably a different human being in each one of those, right? At work here, I try to be as driven and as encouraging, not always, but I try to be as encouraging, and I try to get stuff done. Yeah. Right? You're a taskmaker. Stuff has to get done.
You're good at that, bro.
You have to make that stuff go, right? And so when I sit with my family, what do you need? Do you need me to fix your car? Let's go do it. Do you need me to pick this up? Let's go do it. Do you need me to, you got a pile of stuff you want me to fix? Let's go do it. Whatever it is that you need for that amount of time, I'm there for that. Like I don't need it to be my way. I want to see, how do you need that? Like, what do you need support from me? When it comes to my passion, I shut the world out. And I don't like people entering that world at all. I don't.
True artist.
When I step in my studio, I turn the music on. Yeah. And by the way, I think I had like 70,000 minutes of music played this year on Spotify. And I was like,
who's your top artist?
Kanye West.
Kanye. Let's go. It gets you moving, huh?
Dude, I just, I've talked about this all the time. It's not that I love Kanye for Kanye. Right. I love Kanye because he says stuff without apology. And it's really hard to be exactly who you are in front of everybody. You know what I mean? Fact. I nerf myself on things I think or things I say. Sure. Yep. A lot. Yep. And some people would call that wisdom or intelligence or whatever, but I call it locking myself up. Right. When I see somebody that says, ain't no sun in the shade, birds can't fly in a cage. Like I hear those lyrics and it resonates with me because I'm like, man, I feel that more than because you can't give all yourself to everybody because first off, people just ain't gonna like that, you know. Not for everybody, and I know that, you know. But I do love that about him. He's done some questionable things, and we've had some long discussions in our group about it, significantly. But
you really gotta. I think the term to use, nerf that, like especially in the Christian market. Oh man.
Oh, 100%.
And that's something that is, you know, that's why a lot of, not all the music, it's changed, but a lot of the money making music is very vanilla. It's not a lot of soul to it.
Nope, not.
And it's changing a little bit. You get at those songs that are kind of real, but and those
Jail,
songs,
I love Jail by him. It is so real. It has got like, I don't know, it's got things that you just feel like you need to stop and listen for a second, you know, as opposed to you're being served something because you think this is what you're supposed to eat. This is, you said the word vanilla.
Yeah.
And it's like baby food sometimes.
Yeah. There's an artist, John Mark McMillan, that is a Christian. He's the one that wrote years ago. His buddy passed away and he wrote the song, How He Loves. He loves us. He loves us. Simple song. But you listen to his material lyrically, he's kind of like the Dylan of the Christian market. I mean, his lyrics are out of this world, and you know, it doesn't cater to everybody, but I admire it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I love somebody that can stand. That's what I'm saying. I love that. Where I'm not trying to be palatable.
Yeah,
I am trying, and the older I get, the more of me I expose.
Yeah.
You know,
time's running out. Accept me for who I am. Here I am.
Here it is, man. Like I've done my piece.
Yeah, it'll make you push towards those choices, man. There's something about time that kind of you know what's interesting is as I talked to my dad. He's 84 years old, and he's in Phoenix, Arizona, and living with my mom, and you know, still he's working at the Dream Center with drug addicts, like 3 days a week, and he's on dialysis, and my dad loved boxing, so he's sitting there watching boxing in his boxers and his V-neck, and he's all tatted up, you know. And I looked at him, and I was staying with him for a few days. I said, Dad, what's it feel like to be 84? And he looked at his tattoos that used to hide needle marks and everything else. And he's looking at him, skinny as can be. He's got his cane. He's leaning on his cane, watching boxing. He says, in my mind, I'm still young. And I was like, whoa, that tripped me out.
Yeah.
I started to see older people different, you know, it's just a lot of miles, just a different shell, same person. You see old 60s era iconic artists, you know, and you see them now. You're like, that's the same person, dude. They just, you know, they got a lot of life. And so in some ways I look at that, like my boys, they don't listen to Spotify. I have twin boys, they're 20. They don't, I don't know what universe they come from, but they have like 800 vinyls, and all they do is just go home from work, listen to vinyl. And if I walk in on them and interrupt them, Dad, I was listening to a vinyl. It's like, that's how much immersed. Like, I love music, but they love music. And I'm like, I'm so grateful that they've tapped into that kind of old soul era, because I think, bro, the algorithm and just the way this machine is run is just throwing out trash music.
Yep. You know, it's funny you said on your deathbed, I was thinking about your dad being that age, and you said it was kind of a morbid thought you had earlier.
Yeah.
I went to a funeral, and when I went to this funeral, they were giving out a speech, you know, about this person, or a sermon, I guess is what they're giving.
Yeah.
Really, it was a preacher that kind of stepped into this, and he just started, I didn't know this person, blah, blah, blah. I just started reeling off, and it turned into just a sermon, nothing to do with this human being that was sitting there at all. And then they broke into 6 songs that I'm sure that they sing at every funeral.
Right.
I was disgusted. I was literally disgusted. And I was like, that hurt me. Because I was like, man, out of all of these people that this guy's ever come across in his life, not one human being walked up to that stage to say, let me tell you something I know about this guy. Zero.
Yeah.
And all you're going to do is fulfill this with the generic, this is the way we're supposed to do it scenario.
Yeah.
So I started my own thing. I said, you know what? I told my family, I told everyone who will listen, do not put anybody up on that stage that has never met me in my life. Do not do that. I don't want that. I said, I don't care if you bring a bunch of my buddies that come up here and just want to tell stories that I was an idiot or I did stupid stuff. Or I don't care. Do all that. Y'all laugh about it. Do whatever. And I said, and when y'all go to do music, I said, I'm doing my top 10, my final 10. And she goes, you can't play something. I said, you're playing my music 100%. And I said, I'm making this, it's called the final 10. And these are my 10 songs and I want you to play them. And so, like, I've told my
final 10,
the final 10, dog.
The final 10.
Can you imagine having the final 10 at your funeral and you're sitting there,
man, dude.
and you go from like Outkast to like Merle Haggard to like Kanye and my wife's like, you can't play that Kanye song. And I was like, I'm playing that Kanye song, 100%. She's like, what if your family's there? And I'm like, they know me. They know who I am, right?
True, yeah.
But it would say so much about you.
Yeah.
You know, it just would literally, it would define the moments in your character, you know, and let everybody have a taste of what you were.
Yeah.
By what you loved.
Right.
And I thought, man, I'm doing this, you know. I'm going to at some point do some kind of social push on this to get everybody to do it.
That reminds me of a buddy of mine. His name is Bear Bailey. I don't know if you heard of Bear Bailey. Shout out to Bear.
What's up, Bear?
Bear is from Louisiana. I met him maybe 5 years ago. I put out a worship record and I seen this guy recording my music on Instagram or something. Like, who's this guy singing my music in a studio? And I, you know, over weeks we end up FaceTiming and he loves my music and he just kind of was just an average guy, kind of, you know, from deep inside Louisiana, somewhere outside New Orleans. And he ended up blowing up on TikTok. And I'm like, is this guy for real? Because he's going into gas stations and he just sings inside gas stations. He'll pick up like a Monster drink and some chips and start singing. And they're like, what's up, Bear? Sing us something. And he's singing like, you know, Bone Thugs and Harmony and Keith Urban, all this stuff. And he just blew up. Well, this label and this writer out of Nashville grabbed a hold of him, the whole 9 yards, right? And what I love about Bear is he loves the Lord a lot, you know. He's very he comes from a life of a lot of hard times. But man, he loves God. But he's just, you know Bear who he is from day one. He ain't hiding nothing, you know. And so I kind of like that about people. I'd rather have somebody be honest and rough around the edges and needs a little work and some love, but push comes to shove, he's going to help you when the time's right.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Those type of guys, give me those guys.
100%. And
give me those guys that have that heart. I'll rock with those guys all day long. And
absolutely.
Then, you know, for whatever reason, I've had a lot of those type of people, from TikTok people, people on the America's Got Talent and American Idol. I've been working with a lot of them. And I think because of my upbringing, because my father was like, be all things to all people and don't push your agenda on everybody, like what you're explaining with the whole, you know, analogy of you being at the funeral and stuff like that and just being true and that your family knows who you are, you know. People, you just can't force people to be something other than who they are. They're going to make their decisions. Your job is to be there and love them. And when they come full circle and they need you. And if they see something in you, they'll do it and it'll be on their own initiative. And then it'll stick. But it's hard when the people you love or the people you think would be better off, you could fix this in your life if you just make these adjustments, man. Why are you doing that to yourself? You don't force them. You just be there and ready to respond in the right way. And I think that's what I attribute to any success I've had as far as a songwriter or producing in the Christian and outside the Christian world is just that. Just love people. People know me. They know I'm not going to go in and compromise my faith, you know, but they know that I'm not going to sit there and, you know, beat them over the head with a stick.
They're going to hit them with the Bible all the time.
No, just be cool. And that's got me in a lot of places that I'm like, how am I here, dude? This is a trip. What am I doing? And I'm always, I'm always there in rooms where I'm like, oh, here's my opportunity. You know, I'm going to leverage. This is my chance to get. And I'm always like, oh, this is why I'm here for this dude. I'm here for this girl. And it may be for a season, maybe for a time, but I enjoy that. But I ain't gonna lie, I'm definitely working on leveling up this year. You know, like I've done a lot of reaching to the side and a lot of reaching down to help people come up. And now my wife, my agent,
the driver,
she's like, this year you got to start reaching, you got to reach up. You're too great of a writer to just constantly just, it's in a, maybe you could speak to this, but this is not the correct term, but you're not wasting your time on other people, right? Because I believe in like helping people. Like you get to the mountaintop, turn around, pull somebody up with you.
Yeah.
But I've done a lot of that, and I need to look up again and be like, okay, it's time to stretch. It's time to grow. And I think that my blueprint and how I do it is I just go all in. I'm the king of like knocking on doors and just making conversation with people where other people are like, how did you get in there? I said, I don't know. I just asked, man. I don't know about you, but I've never had anything success that really stuck that just sort of fell in my lap. I've always had to create it. I literally created the opportunity for the most part, did something, and then things transpire as they may, as the universe figures out what's going on. You know what I mean?
100%. You know, I'm king of kicking the door down. If I see a touch of crack in there, I'm just like kicking and kicking and kicking and kicking. And you know, and that rubs some people wrong too. But at the end of the day, like you make your own way, you know? And so, I don't know. I really believe that, you know, seeing someone like you who's sometimes had your own voice, sometimes had your voice through other people.
Yeah.
It must be very difficult too when you see success and you're like, man, I played such a role in that and I'll never be known for that.
Yeah. That's something that I struggle with a little bit, because I feel like I've got some shelf life on myself as far as an artist. I don't feel like, in one sense, I feel like I just started. You know what I mean? And I think that was purposeful. Like I've always, I put my family first. Like my dad was always gone.
Yeah.
Great relationship, but he's always gone. So I knew when I had kids, I'm going to coach the teams, you know, like we coach. We're there sticking around and doing all that stuff. And then, you know, if I got some relevance by the time I'm 40 or whatever, I give a crack at it. And that's what I've been doing, but it's been going well. But I'm like, nah, it's not. I know I haven't reached what I know is my own potential. And by doing it through other people, it's a means of financial income, you know, that I can generate. And just everything that I don't know if this is something that you struggle with, but bro, I take on a lot and I spread myself thin a lot. They're all great ideas, but it's not like some guys just focus on one thing and they're really great at it, but they can't diversify. I'm the guy like in Coinbase that's got everything that I'm doing it all, but I know that I'm comfortable. I have to be comfortable with the pace that I'm running, knowing that pace is going to get me there eventually. It may not happen like this person on my left or right, but my pace that I want to do all these things. And Anna's like, my wife's like, Brandon, you chose this field. This is something you chose. This is music is a hard business. Shoot, man, it is. So you almost have to diversify to get all that income. And I've had to educate myself on a lot of the business side of things. And the same way that I started when I was teaching myself programming and Photoshop from my late teens all through till I was 35. You know what I'm saying? When we just taught ourselves what we're doing and became experts at it, I just carried that over into the music field. So a lot of songwriters that I'm with that are solidified in the industry, they don't even know the business. I'm like, how the heck do you not know the business?
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, there's your downfall, you know? So yeah, man, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, but with me, it's kind of been like just being content, being chill out, bro. It's kind of like when you're running a marathon. I don't know if I used to run some marathons and I wasn't a professional, but I ran the Big D. I ran some, and I'd be training out there, man. And it's one thing to be motivated in your mind. It's one thing to be like, man, I'm gonna run this 18-mile long run, and I'm gonna just push through it because I've decided I'm pushing through it. No, dude, when you get to that mile 13, 14, and you're running your 7.5 minute miles and you have to stop, well, life will reality check you right away. Had you not backed up and said, I'm going to run 9-minute miles till I get to the backside and see what I got left, that's where I think it's such a great analogy when it comes to the things that we take on. And so I understand, dude, I've got to pace myself.
Okay. You you've just gotten to that point where you realize you got to pace yourself?
No, I've always known it,
okay.
but I'm not content.
Same.
I'm not like, no, but where's the shortcut? I can push harder. I can do more. That's like it's not that I'm unsatisfied or disappointed in my results. It's just like, it's a burning desire.
There's more there.
Yeah, dude, I'm just not tapping in, like, and so, that's again, I think Bob Dylan said it best. It's like, I'm in the constant state of becoming.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever, I'm going to try to wrap this up into that and say, for a piece of artwork that I'm working on, if I'm painting on this thing, I could paint and paint and paint and never get done with it, because you can always add something more to it, right? Get better at it.
Oh, yeah.
And you see something and you pick those pieces apart. Somebody else comes in and goes, oh, it's so great, right? And you are just filleting that thing. You know what I mean? In your mind, you're just like, this is trash or whatever. And you look at somebody and go, thank you, thank you. Writing songs the same way.
Right.
Is there ever a point where it becomes a business transaction? You're like, enough is good. Let me move on from this. Or you like, man, I need to get to this. There's more in here. There's better, and I can push and make this better. I can burn and burn and burn.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's much easier when it's other people's art that you're producing, not your own.
Right.
I think when it comes to your own art, you can get just engulfed in the minutia that no one else is going to hear.
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to know that you painted the stroke on the red on this artwork a little bit to the left, and it should have come to the right. Now the whole thing's off in your eye. Nobody cares about that. But I think also that's what makes great art great, is those subtleties that other people can't see. They may look at something, I don't know why I listen to this and I like it, or I don't know why I see this art, but it's something to me. I think those little finesses and those things contribute to that to a degree. But when it comes to the business transaction, I think it's all about how you set your life up. I think if you're somebody that's young and doesn't have a lot of responsibility, and you can kind of go at your own pace. You can do what you want to do and take as much time as you want, finesse that thing, to whatever degree. You could live off the streets and do that if you wanted to. But if whatever road pathway you choose, it's the wrong word, but it's not forfeit, but you there's a compromise in what you can do. And then so when you're young and you're newbie at this, you may just say, oh, I can do it. You're ambitious to a fault, so to speak, but you can kind of, learn to trim that fat. Like my wife's always like, you got to work quicker. You got to work quicker. You got to work quicker. Because the stuff I put out is great. But, and I asked my buddy, who's another producer, great engineer, I said, hey, dude, do you think that I work fast? He's like, oh yeah, dude, you work really fast.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I thought so. I work fast.
Yeah. But
somebody else that's not in the field, whether it be a family member or just a friend, they may not know what that entails, the process. And then you have to go back and think, what's it worth my time? How much is it worth to me? And I've always undervalued out of myself and undercharged out of myself because I just wanted to help people. And now I'm at that point where I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta step this up. And guys, my buddies from Nashville and stuff are like, oh no, you're this level of guy. Why are you doing that? So yeah, dude, I think to a degree, you can OCD that thing out, that piece of artwork out, but I think at some point, I don't think it's ever finished. You're just going to have to walk away and be okay with that where it evolved to that point.
Yeah. I think, the struggle that I've had is I've looked at every piece as trying not to say this piece defines me. And when I say that, it's like when you paint something and you get ready to produce it, when you expose it to the world, that's what they experience your level as, right? Oh, this is your ceiling. I see that. And I'm always like, I've got more in there.
Right.
But how much do I dedicate to this to get it to that level before I say it's okay and before I move on? Because I never think that I'm going to be stopped at something I can always get better. I can always learn. I can always find a tip or a trick or do something to make it better and get better. And the longer I hold on to pieces, the more I tune them and make them better. But the defining moment of getting it out there and people see you and that's like, oh, they're here. When you see yourself as here, right? Because, but you see what they see too. And you're like, man, if I just held on to it a little longer before I did that, now I'd be on this level.
Right.
And I held it a little bit longer.
Good way to
now
put
I'd be
it,
on
man.
this level, right?
Defining yourself. Am I defined in that? That's hard. I don't know I'm sure there's crossover between physical art and music. But like, I always feel like, oh man, is the stuff I'm creating for other people, is that how I want to be known as? So you kind of like, you hold that in your own hands. And I don't know if being stingy with it is more hurtful than it is just letting it go and being free with it. You know, I always preach that, like, just like let freedom have you, like as a beautiful place to be, where you just kind of almost a healthy carelessness. I like that place. There's more peace in it. But I struggle to be there, bro. I do.
That's the hardest part, man, is just like the expectations of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I really...
That's a whole nother podcast right there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, and like I'm saying, it's like, and when I say when people put it out, they define you by that, I really mean like I define me by that when I know there's a ceiling that I can crack through on that.
What was that like for you with golf? Because you were at it you were kind of like, you're getting pretty serious for a while, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That one was, sports to me is you're up against a competition of somebody next to you. So it's an easy win if you go out and you take the person on next to you and you smash them. You feel good about yourself on that day, right? Until you get your head smashed in and then blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
The thing about, and with golf, it was easily defined that day. I won, pay me, you know, pretty easy transaction right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Check in, check out. Yeah.
With art, it's like,
man, so true.
What is my art worth? Well, I'm selling stuff for $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, depending on what it is, right? And so as you go to start talking about these things, like, well, is the value of that more if I put more into it? Or is the value just there because I've built my name up to this point from who I am and what I'm doing? You know what I mean? Could I be better? Can I push that further? It's always me against me in that room, not me against you at the golf course. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Me against you, I can be, and when I step on the golf course and I'm serious about it, I'm not your friend. I don't like to talk to you about stuff.
If anybody wants to see Brandin play, he takes about 2 seconds to step up and hit the ball.
just not friendly.
When I first started playing with you, I'm like getting a little waggle. Wait a sec. Brandin, all right, step up, whack.
Well, sometimes it doesn't go where I want it to anymore, but that's one thing I want to get back into this year. I do want to really push that because I'm trying to find a balance between, like you said, what are you working for at the end of the day? I have this conversation with my kids every day now, not every day, all the time now, but pick a lifestyle that you'll be happy living. Pick it now.
Totally, bro.
Make trajectories to get to that place.
And if you got to make some adjustments, you're young enough to make them.
Cool. Yeah. But don't just blindly climb the ladder.
No.
Not knowing where you're going to go, because all you're going to do is lift your lifestyle up to that every step, right?
Right.
And then you're going to be handcuffed to a giant house and a giant pool and an expensive car and all this other stuff. And it never stops. Those bills, once you sign up for a mortgage, they ain't saying, you know what, I changed my mind, I don't want to do this. They're going to be like, so, you know. But that's what I
Kelly wouldn't really like that. No.
No. But if I had told her we was living in a tiny house from the start, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
And respect to people who live in the tiny house, because that sounds
minimalist,
nice.
bro. I know. No, you're absolutely right. If you're young, you listen to this, man. You got so much. You have one thing that they say this in the music world, as an independent artist versus somebody who's signed with a label. This is a great analogy. People that are independent artists have something that established artists don't have. You have the ability to change. You can recreate yourself. Whereas established artists, the label doesn't want them. They drop them. They're done. They're kind of tainted. Then a lot of men end up getting jaded and oh, you're the guys in Nashville you're writing with, and they're talking bad about this label and blah, 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 because they've been burned.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of nice to hold your own destiny, but then you live and die by your own sword.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have an opportunity to kind of recreate yourself and be like, well, let me try this, let me try this, let me try that.
Mm-hmm.
So to each his own.
So guitar was the very first thing you started out on?
Yeah, guitar. I dink around on some piano a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but I can pretty much play anything, I just pick it up for a while. But
your flute instrument, horns?
I play the harmonica. I mean, I can rip that. You know how I learned to play that? So I lived right here in Rockwall, and I worked in Irving for over 10 years, and I drive that 100-mile round trip every day for 5 days a week. And I bought a harmonica, a Kia C harmonica at Cracker Barrel.
This is ridiculous.
And I would come over to Lake Ray Hubbard Bridge, and I'd just sit in traffic, and I would like, YouTube was just kind of popping, so I'd figure out how do you bend a note with a harp, and dude, I just ended up like just playing it all the time in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And in the minivan with all my, my kids' stuff in there, and just like holding on to the dream, holding on to it. I'd be hyperventilating sometimes, just trying to figure it out. But I can rip the harp, But a lot of my days now, it's just a lot of programming, a lot of pop stuff, and I'm doing all kinds of all over the board, bro.
I'm just gonna say the facial expression you made when you did that.
What's that?
Kind of pop stuff.
Pop stuff, yeah. I don't really care for pop all that much, but it's, I'm more. I dig the. If you were to pin me down, Brandon, what's your vibe right now? I would say it's a cross between like Stapleton, CCR, and the Police.
I could absolutely jam that right there for the rest of my life.
Yeah, there's some great hits. Yeah. Like I was listening to my buddies in the studio, which I built a brand new studio out of the house. Mm-hmm. It's full-fledged. It's all my stuff's going on there, and my buddy's with me, and I said, bro, how do you get drums like that? We're listening to CCR, Green River. Mm-hmm. This is the pop. And I'm just like, dude, and the guitar's on the right side, the drums are on the left. It's like this crazy panning thing going on. And I said, how do you get them drums? He's like, one microphone. Just put it in the room. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so simple back then, dude. There was no tedious auto-tune Melodyne programming to a click, to a grid. Everything was just like, you just played, man. Mm-hmm. And you were as good as what you did. Yeah. And the songs, when Lennon and McCarthy, when they would write, they wouldn't see each other for years. They'd come back and they would play the songs that they remembered. Excuse me. They play the songs they remembered. And the ones that they remembered, they figured were the best ones, because if they could remember them, then they were memorable. Everybody else would remember them. The ones they didn't, they were like, I don't know.
What was that song? I don't remember. They weren't good.
So I think convenience of technology and everything is kind of, we're not as fine-tuned as those guys were. Yeah. It's a lost era, man.
Do you think there's a lot of copycatting and stuff going on now?
Dude, that's most of it. I mean, especially it reeks that way when you're in the industry and you're talking to attorneys and you're talking to A&R guys and heads of publishing and you talk about them hooking up with different songwriters and just the way they communicate is like, get me out of here. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not here to make to follow this suit or this suit. Let me think about this artist, what this artist can bring to the table. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's and a lot of these TikTok people that I work with, people that have huge followings, it's so hard for them to carry over that following into streams, into revenue. Mm-hmm. Massive followings. Usually when you base your whole career off of just singing covers, okay, and some shtick that you got, when it comes time to transfer into original material, dude, I've never seen anybody do it this successfully. Yeah. But I have seen people that just did their own thing and from the get-go, and then their social media fall. There's a guy that is a young cat. I call him Young Blood. His name is John Michael Howell. Uh-huh. And I knew him when he was a little kid. And he came to me. I was doing a podcast, and I was interviewing him. He's like, "I'm gonna make one song a week." This is like 5 years ago. One song. You release a song every week. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. All right. Mm-hmm. He did it, man. Mm-hmm. He's like one of the top guys on. I mean, up to 1 million on Instagram. every song is just, I mean, he's making some money.
That's crazy.
And good for him, because every song he does is an original song. May not be my cup of tea,
Right.
He does his thing, but whew, when you're riding on other people's backs, there's a level to that where you're like, even if you've got an amazing voice.
Gosh, I got a guy that I've been wanting to connect you with for so long, because I see you as a, deep thought-provoking person, lyricist type guy, and this guy has one of the best voices, and I've always thought, like, if this dude just had someone to write some stuff for him, like,
oh, bro,
it would blow up.
There's so many cats that can sing.
Yes.
I mean, they could just walk all over me. It just takes the right song, man. It's all about what you're singing, and if you can write that yourself, that comes from the soul. That just does something, People are like, oh, that's why it's hard to write Christian music and worship music. I can do it with the best of them, but a lot of times if I throw like real life in there, no, let's keep it more positive. Let's keep it, one aspect of God, But I like what Bono says. He's like, have you ever read the Psalms? All I read is the blues. It's like you have the ups and you have the downs. And if you start here and you never take them from down here, you already maxed out. You got no headroom. You got nowhere to go. There's no dynamic in the storytelling at all. So I'm not afraid of the journey. I'm not into like sulking and like, woe is me. And I don't think anybody wants to listen to that. But if you eliminate the journey, you eliminate the power of the song. If you same thing with your art. You got to, that's not going to be, there's no shelf life on that.
Have you ever secretly
Yes
heard somebody out there that you knew was blown up and you're like, how?
Oh, dude, absolutely, all the time.
You're like, I'm better than this. I've done this. I can run circles around that. How?
Because hard work beats talent when talent won't work. That's the side of the hustle that you and I have come to understand. That's the world we live in. That's why you got a podcast. That's why you're doing what you got to do, because as much as I don't want to get up and make social media content, and I can make all kinds of excuses, at the end of the day, it's like, great. Guess I got to.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of people like that are, and then there's this one girl named Yael Hilton. Oh my gosh, she could sing. She'll destroy anybody. Yeah, but she'll mop them up, dude. I mean, it's like on a whole other level. And I'm just like, man, let me help you. Let me help you get to that. But some people, they just, I don't know. I don't know what it is, man. They just, like your buddy or whoever it is. I've been to riding camps in Colorado, up in Estes Park in the mountains with a bunch of great riders. And I mean, talk about talent. Golly, man. What's in the water over here? You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys are off the charts.
Yeah.
But they're just content working insurance jobs, and like, they haven't had that moment yet. Like we talked about, they just haven't had that. Or maybe they did and they felt burned, and they felt like, there's a lot of it in the industry with that too. It's like people they're jaded and they felt hurt, and they just like, they have trust issues. So when you get somebody like me coming along, like, hey man, let's write a song. Like, I don't burn nobody, I don't do that. Like I'm all heart.
Yeah.
And I'm
been burned, don't burn. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, but they don't know that.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of like, maybe that's why like a lot of people kind of lean on me, because I kind of just, I don't know, I'm a little softer, I guess, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, dude. So Tex was in this seat though.
Tex was. Well, tell that story, because you said, I was going to circle back to this, because you said, sometimes I think it's about me. And then I'm like, oh.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we were, I was doing, this was like right before my mom passed away, and maybe it was like 2000 and, when was that? 17 or 16, 15?
Probably earlier. Yeah, somewhere around
2015.
that. Yeah.
So we're on top of one of the buildings in Dallas. My sister Katie had sister-in-law Katie had a apartment there, so they have a rooftop, and I just was like, throw my own show, get people up here, videotape this thing, try to get some local promotion going in
downtown Dallas on top of the skyscrapers. Really cool.
It was so dope, and took some buddies out there, did that, and I invited you because our families were tight and kids were going to school and stuff, and then Tex, I knew Tex. Tex is hard to miss. I mean, if you don't know Tex Moten, shout out to Tex. I mean, he's probably next to Kanye, one of the most creative guys you're ever going to meet in your life. Yeah. I mean, I remember he came into our church and I thought, who is this guy? He looks like he landed on the moon. Mm-hmm. Like, he looks like he's dressed for Mars, and everything he's wearing, he was different. And talk about, like I think you mentioned earlier, about just being who you are, unashamed. Like, this is just who I am. Dude, that was Tex, man. And then he was there. I invited him, and y'all met. I'm like, yeah, he's an artist. You check it out. Next thing I know, you guys are just like slaying it over the next decade, man.
Tex has ended up being literally one of my best friends in my life. And
really?
100%.
Dude, that's so wild.
Yeah, we're on the same group message together that we talk probably 6 times a day.
Really?
We've done 50 art projects together. We're doing a gallery show right now. Our families have kicked it off. We're together. We've got this GG. I started calling us Gang Gang forever ago.
No way.
And so my group has got this Gang, and he's part of it. And he's got the GG tattoos as well.
Serious?
Yeah. So him and his wife, my wife, and then 2 other couples or 3 other couples.
Dude, that's wild, bro.
So yeah,
talk about like I don't necessarily believe in coincidences. I believe God's behind a lot of that, but right place, right time, and just man, that's exciting. I've been seeing a lot of the murals you guys paint, and I'm just like, man, these guys are just a matter of time.
Well, it was cool because I was doing like gallery stuff, painting like this, and acrylics and whatever, right? And so when you introduced him, you're like, dude, I got to introduce you to stay right here. And then you ran to get him, and you brought him back. And you're like, Brandin, Tex, Brandin. And then you're like, see ya. And then you turned around and went back.
I had to pack up, dude. I was living the musician's life. Yeah.
So I was like, I guess we're supposed to talk or whatever. And so I started showing him my stuff. And he's literally the one that told me to come to a place, check out his mural the next day. I was so impressed by the scale of what they do, right? Like, it was just, I can do this, but I can see it. It's in front of me. I can never change the perspective as I'm doing this. And I can step back a foot from it and still go back and hit that pinpoint of where I want to change things to. On a mural, on a wall, you've got to go down the ladder, across the street, look at it, find a spot, go back down, climb the ladder, get back, and hope you hit that right spot while you're there, right?
Wow, yeah.
It's very different. So I literally went to watch it, and he was like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just watching. So he literally threw a can in my hand and said, this is your spot.
No way.
Forced me, to
That's dope.
To break a ceiling.
He's one of the pioneers and just graffiti artists here in Texas.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I really love the fact that we are completely different. He gave me some tips and showed me a bunch of stuff, and I could not do what he does.
Yeah. He's so business savvy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tex. Like I hit him up maybe a couple weeks ago, and I just like, yo, if you got any of the Mavs season tickets you want to link me up with, I'm just saying, I was just messing with him. Just like on a whim, I thought about him because, I've had some artists I've brought through him to check out his stuff and whatnot. And he's always been so kind to me and just lended his ear to me. And next thing I know, like the following week, my wife comes in and says, oh my gosh, they gave us, a couple courtside tickets. He's done that before, but this has been a while. And I'm like, no way, who are they playing? They're playing Thunder.
Yeah.
And so Tex has got 5-6 rows back behind the backboard. So I didn't realize this, but man, this is how much I've been out of the loop because I've just been grinding on my own music. I was like, we got Klay Thompson. What in the world?
You're right. You're so out of the loop.
That's Klay. What's he doing on our team? Kyrie and watching these cats play and to see how Tex was a part of how he works with the Dallas Mavs and the city jerseys and whatever else he's got going on. He's one of the biggest givers I know too.
100%.
And I think that's like really, he's approachable. He gives, he's kind. Gosh, that's probably why he's just so stinking successful.
I asked him about something a while back, in a group message with my gang guys.
Mhm.
And I asked him about it.
Is there a branding? Is like a tattoo thing next door? I get a GG on me.
You get,
Gotta get it on my back.
Yeah. On the small of your back, you can get it.
My back.
Or you can get it around your belly button. Up to you.
Yeah, I already got something around there. No.
I've already got a son there. But I asked him about something, and he said he didn't reply, which is not like him in general, but he sent me a separate message, and he was like, I just don't want to let you down.
Mm.
Unbelievable. Like, I'm nobody from nowhere.
Yeah.
We've just become great friends.
Yeah.
We've linked up and done so much stuff together. But when you have people like that are just like, I'm down, I just don't want to let you down. You know what I mean? And they feel that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of people.
He's a true homie.
Yeah, it's who you surround yourself with, you know?
Yeah.
And so
that's a rarity, man. When you got guys like that, don't let them go. Man.
Oh, 100%. No, he's locked. Super locked.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, we're branded together, you know. So
yeah,
but it's good. No, I appreciate that introduction, and you know, like I said, when you surround yourself with people who are like minded, and you, like you said, I'm there for this reason.
Yeah,
you know, you introduced us, and some crazy things have happened in my life and in his life just because of this introduction between both of our worlds, and you did that.
You never know what something small and insignificant in your eyes that you put out into the world, where it will go.
Mm-hmm.
Like with Bear linked me up with, introduced me to Gary LaVox from Rascal Flats up in Nashville. So I'm with Gary at his ranch. He comes walking in with a dip in his mouth and a turkey call. What's going on, Brandon? You know? And that was all because I decided on a whim that I was doing like this. I was working with John Mayer's drummer, this guy named Aaron Sterling, and I was doing like a sort of pop folky, born and raised type of Mayer thing. And then I came back home to Texas, and I was like, something in my gut says do a worship record.
Mm-hmm.
And I left all that, all the money I'd spent on that, and just did something totally different and real spontaneous, and got all my friends to be a part. And that's what got me a publishing deal with Integrity Music. It was that thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Is this the thing with the lights and the stuff that you invited everybody to that one time?
The lights?
Do you remember like they had like lights hanging from the ceiling?
The shrooms and the lights?
No. No, like it was, you rented a place out.
That's it. Yeah. Redefine Coffee. I did that there. It was years ago. So I just did that. I have a bunch of Brazilian friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother story. Shout out to Brazil. Tamo junto. Yeah, dude, I just, it's kind of like that Gary Vee says, jab, 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 hook, you know? It's like basically give. And when the time is right, ask, you know? And that's something that I did. I spent over a decade just pouring into people's lives as a worship pastor, never asking for anything. And then, man, boy, did that come full circle in not only that particular project, but it's taken me all over the world. So I can go to Brazil. I've been this last year, 2 years, I went to Manchester. I went to Paris. I went to Denmark. Where else did I go? Brazil, Israel, all through the States. So many opportunities have opened because of those people that I've just loved on, became somebody's, and now I go full circle. Mm-hmm. It's less of it's more of a long game approach.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's my role. It's more of a long game, but I need the short game.
Well, you're a glue guy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Do you like the role of being a glue guy?
Snorting that glue.
No. The super glue snip. No, but really you're a guy that brings people together. Like people trust you and your word when you say something.
I think that's probably what my strongest point is I'm good at that. And I don't have to necessarily work at it at all. Yeah. I don't know why. I just can kind of like, you know, I don't know. I'm just in the middle of that stuff. And probably because people can smell want a mile away.
Yeah.
And when you don't put that off and it's not really something that you're really seeking, then they just kind of like, this feels right, you know? And yeah. So.
I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. Do you ever think that the weight on your shoulders as the producer for your family ever becomes too much? Have you ever felt overwhelmed? Have you ever felt like, how do I carry this? How do I continue to, am I living up to who I'm supposed to be?
Yeah. I would say it doesn't affect me emotionally or like in my mind, in my own self-confidence, but it does affect me in my physical self, like burnout and just how much your mind can take. And you know, I can push to a fault and I'm very tenacious, but my body will kind of be like, hey, you need to stop. And I'll be like, I'm great. And then your body will tell you when you know, your mind will tell you, no more. And I've done that too a lot of times and pushed my family into, you know, jeopardizing that. You know, I'm not ashamed to say this, but like I struggled with mental health since I was 30. I was diagnosed with severe obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, and that rocked me for over a decade, like hard, like not like, oh, I got to straighten a picture on a wall. I'm talking like there's levels of this stuff. Like I went to Nam, you know, and I was there. I hung on. It's a miracle that I'm here. And my wife, I took her through a lot of that, but kind of like how with your wife, man, I'm lucky. Like if I was to chalk up everything into my restoration or just being normal, you know, and I don't struggle at all, you know, anymore. It's like something that I conquered. And how did that happen? A lot of at-bats, a lot of grace from my wife, a lot of grace on myself, a lot of acceptance of what I had and finding peace in that.
Yeah.
A lot of help from doctors all over, you know, best doctors in the world. A lot of self-help, a lot of drive. But at the end of the day, what saved me and why I'm able to write the music I can write and reach people with that hurt and that place of soul music is because my wife, like, she loved me, dude. She loved me like, I don't know how she could love me like that. Like, she talk about grace and talk about like not giving up. Them Hucks, they're loyal to a core, dude. That's one thing about them. They are loyal.
Yeah.
And you know, I remember the last episode that I had with that was years ago, and I was dealing with it and I'd hide it from her, you know, and like, here I go again, because I take my family back into the same routine where I'm basically checked out for 6 months, you know, and there were times I thought maybe I'm supposed to be like my dad. Maybe it's just in me. It's genetic, you know, and I should go just live a crazy life and, you know, whatever. But something inside me hung on, and my wife, I learned that I could hide that from her a little bit and keep her protected, because what she don't know can't hurt her, you know. But our wives can know us. And she came up to me when I was cleaning the car out, and I was just having a real tough time, man. And she came up and said, hey, what's wrong with you? She caught me, you know, and I'm like, and so I just kind of like, here I am, the 9th or 10th time of like crash and burn with this disorder in my brain, this biological thing in my mind. She grabbed a hold of me, and I thought for certain she's gonna leave me, you know. She grabbed my hand. She looked at me. She's like, "It's not your fault." Dude, that rocked me, man. I was like, phew. I thought I knew what love was, you know.
Yeah.
Till she said that, and then I just been learning a lot, man. You know, through a lot of that struggle, and I feel like, you know, I go out and I sing music, but on the side, I talk to people about mental health. I know I'm going to end up writing a book one of these days, and that's what I end up doing as I get older.
Yeah.
But right now, the music is the kind of the key that opens people's hearts. I can get in, and then when I'm just like transparent, I call it tactful transparency, where you kind of just open up, look at me.
Yeah.
That guy's like that too. He's like me, you know. And then people come down and they want to talk to you, and they're just crying before they even talk to you. And they're like, oh man, I'm dealing with this and this. And I just look at them and I just share. I said, you know what? That's okay. That's okay. that's just your mind. That ain't you. That's just your brain. God loves you, and don't you think he understands that problem? He understands you. It's a lot of things that it took me 10 years to figure out. And oh man, that's gratifying, bro. When you see somebody coming with tears and walking away like smiling.
Yeah.
I didn't fix anything. I just started them on the right trajectory.
Let it unfold.
Yeah. So yeah, man. I can't remember the original question, but that's that idea of life and your family will teach you things. My kids have taught me a lot.
Well, I started out by the reason I asked this question was a buddy of mine sent me a video today, and it was from 2018. This guy hops in a plane and steals a commercial airlines airplane. Literally steals this thing. Wow. And he gets in, he starts talking to the guy on the mic, and he's talking to the traffic controller or whatever about and he's like, hey, how do you do this? And he's like,
what?
Sir,
you're true story.
Yeah, true story. And the guy's name is
Brandon Adams.
No, Richard. If you want to look it up, it was an airplane in 2018. The guy's name is Richard Bebo Russell. He hijacked an Alaskan Airlines plane. Okay?
This is a song. I'm going to write a song about this.
Okay. Well, so this got me today. So he sends me this deal, and the headline says, "Every man knows what this man was thinking." Right? And so here I am thinking like, yeah, I would have loved to just jump in there and just go how do you first off get into a Alaskan Airlines full-size airplane and just take it off, right? Well, he's up and he's driving around, he's asking questions, and the guy on the other line says, Have you ever flown a plane before? He goes, oh man, I played video games, so I feel like I got this under control or whatever. And he was like, really? And he's like,
I'm on level 10 on Aviator.
Yeah. And so the guy's flying it around. I'm smiling. I'm thinking, yeah, that would be so much fun. And then all of a sudden a jet fighter comes up next to it.
Oh, snap.
And starts flying behind him. And they start having a conversation, him and this guy. And he's like, don't want anybody to get hurt or whatever. And the guy's like, yeah, don't talk about people getting hurt or whatever. I don't want to do anything drastic. So they make a friendship, right?
Okay.
And so then he starts asking him the capabilities of this airplane. And he's like, do you think this 747 can do a barrel roll? And the guy's like, sir, let's focus on landing this plane first safely before we start doing anything else. And then they get going on or whatever. And he's like, I think he can do a barrel roll.
Were the people inside the plane?
Just him.
Yeah.
And he's flying it around, whatever. Well, he takes this giant plane and starts a barrel roll.
Oh my God.
And I'm thinking, this has gone from a joyride.
Who is
this dude, right? Well, then he starts saying, there's a lot of people out there that I know and love and I care for, and they're going to be very upset by this video. And I just want to tell them I love them. And
so I better do a couple barrel rolls while I'm at it.
So he's like going, whatever. So he does this barrel roll and literally comes across the water and is just about to land in the water, pulls it up 10 feet from hitting in the water and makes it a giant barrel roll in 747, right? Well, this pilot in this jet is like turning around. He's like going, he actually did a barrel roll in this. He was like 10 feet from crashing the plane in the water or whatever. And the guy goes like, okay, you did your barrel roll. Let's get this thing safely landed. I don't want to have to do anything, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, what's your next play? And he goes, well, to be honest, like I thought that was going to be my last play.
Oh, snap.
And he goes, I was hoping that was going to be that, but I actually made it. So
you made it.
And he goes, are you going to land it now? And he goes, yeah, but probably not the way you want me to land it.
Oh, shoot.
And the guy takes it and flies it into an abandoned island, just like a little island, just blows up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was uncontrollably sobbing.
Wow.
I don't know why this happened to me. I don't know what I felt, but I was just like, this guy was like 25 years old, 28 years old or whatever, right? Mm. But it came over me like a rush. And I was like, I feel for this human being who is obviously carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. And as a man and everything that you got going and you're doing so much, it's like, he just wanted to escape.
One last ride, yeah.
But he wanted to do it not like a child. He wanted to do it, not like a scared person. He wanted to do it with fun and wanted to communicate. And he was documenting this thing as it was going on. Oh and having conversations with this other guy. And I thought, and it took me a few minutes, and it's still, it sat with me the whole day, and I'm not somebody who cries. I do not cry. It's years. in between any type of tear coming out of my eye. And I don't do that on purpose. It's just who I am. But man, when that thing hit me, it was like a ton of weight. And I thought, what does that mean? What is that, for that guy? What is that? How did I connect to something like that? You know, as you start to think about your journey and what you're putting on yourself. Oh, who knows, man? Maybe I'll figure it out in a week or whatever.
Your chassis has got an Alaska Airlines Boeing 747 on his test.
Anyways, so I just rented a video game. but at the end of the day, like, you start to think about stuff like that. It's like, I don't know. I think even through my artwork, I sponge up people. Things that I've seen in my life.
Realness. Yeah.
The things that happen to them, I absorb them for some reason. And I have to paint them out.
Wow.
Like, there was a lady that I saw that got verbally abused and just totally torn down in Miami one time at a gallery show. This guy was like flexing how great he was or whatever. We're going to buy all my stuff, right? And he had this woman on his arm and she was beautiful, right? And I thought, this woman's got the world by the tail. She's got this guy carrying it around, flying her around. She shows up in a Lambo. She's got everything, right? And he just, because she leaned on the side of his Lambo, just leaned up against it and smoked a cigarette. He went out, tore her down, called her all kinds of names, did all kinds of, took her stuff and was throwing it out in the street, lingerie, everything.
Yeah.
And then turned around to us and said, sorry, gentlemen, y'all had to see this. Because I was walking outside like, this dude's about to get rough, right? And he's sorry, y'all had to see this. And he gets in his land. He goes, it had to be done. He takes off. I look at this woman's eyes and she is broken, embarrassed, tears running down her face. And that hit me so hard. Like, I absorbed that. And I thought, how wrong was I about this woman? She didn't have the world by the tail. What she really had was all the wrong people wanting her for all the wrong reasons. Like, no one was truly loving that woman. That woman was a trophy to somebody, was a notch on a belt, was some type of ornament, and I just misjudged her and I misplaced it. And it hurt me so bad that I did that, much like in this video, I took it and I was like, it's funny, blah, 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 not knowing what some human being was going through and how I did it again.
Right.
Like, I didn't give enough respect to this human being for whatever, if somebody does something that extreme, I didn't even take the moment to think about it, But I had to paint that woman in a portrait of her, and I put in neon over the top of her face before you even got to see her looks.
I remember that
Love
piece.
you.
Yeah, that's that
Hold
piece.
me, kiss me, all these different things.
Yeah.
That's where that came from. Is like,
really?
Yeah, because I wanted you to see what her true feelings were before you saw her face. The opposite of what I did, And so I don't know what that means. I don't know what's going to happen.
You're a true artist, B. I mean, most people are just shelling out trash, and it's like the story behind a song.
Yeah.
It's like you're a sponge, man. You're a conduit. You're absorbing that up and you're expressing it in a way that's like uniquely you,
But do you think I see you telling stories. So the reason I'm asking this, I see you telling stories and I wonder, like, do you do that? Because for me, it's sticky, it's gross, it's like heavy.
With other people? No, I would say like most of my music, this is going to get a little spiritual here, but I would say a lot of the songs that I would come to me, I just sort of discover, there's songs that I really try to, I'm writing this, I dig into it and they end up going nowhere. It's the songs that it's just sort of like fall into my lap. Those end up being the most simple, write it in 10 minutes, it's done. But those songs are kind of like they sort of like precede or not precede me. They're ahead of me, and it's like almost kind of like prophetic in a sense. You know what I mean? Like it's what's around the corner for me, and I've noticed that.
Yeah,
like I needed this song. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like this was for me.
This was a note.
And
for
if
me.
it's something that was food for my soul, that means it's going to be food for other people's soul. There's something in it. And I think that something is more behind it than just, our own wit and our own cleverness and forging composition. I think it's something God gave to you and he works it out in different expression in anybody, whether it's music or art, whatever. He gives man gifts and it's up, he can bring us these ideas like with what you're talking about. seeing this girl, and he can conduct and orchestrate that chapter in your story. But ultimately, your responsibility is to respond. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's our job is to respond to that. Yeah. And I think that if you don't respond, then there's just missed opportunity.
Yeah, use your tools.
Yeah, so I think so. Yeah, bro, that's crazy, man. I mean, do you find yourself like a lot? Is there like a carryover? Does that weigh on you at all?
It'll take time, and it'll dissolve.
When the art's done, it's there.
I don't know if it's complete. It's heavy at the beginning, and the more I paint it out, it disperses over time.
Yeah, you're just a true artist, bro.
Oh, well, it sucks sometimes to pay that much. That was a heavy one today.
But I remember that piece. That's like one of your
early ones.
First pieces that was like really, that's a dope piece.
Yeah, that one really kind of broke through for a lot of people, and that's when I started having a lot of people reach out to me about what is this, who are you, blah blah blah, right? So yeah, no, honestly, like that's kind of the thing that for me, I don't know, man, it's peace for me, you know, and I think we walk through this world and we see these things that surround us that we sometimes step through, you know, that look, man, I'm not perfect by any stretch. So I'm not trying to act like I'm just the saint walking through greatness, you know, and it just picks me up, you know, and it's like, no, that's not how it happens. I just walk across some things sometimes and I don't like them. So I have to paint them off of me. You know what I mean? It's like, but
there's a guy, you know, talking about creating your own opportunity. Back in 2016, 17, I was struggling with some OC mental health stuff. And I wrote this song called Heal My Heart. And it was a Christian song. And it was I just had a chorus. And real simple, I posted it on Instagram. And then, you know, 6 months later, I met this guy at our church that came through our church from Jamaica. His name was Jermaine Edwards. And I'm like, oh, dude, I love Rasta. Give me some Bob Marley, man. Like, he was singing some gospel stuff. And I'm like, But he started doing some like, you know, true Rasta. And I was like, yes, this. So I went up to him afterwards. I'm like, hey, man, you know, we should write. Like, I just lead right in, you know. I'm a writer here, man. I would love to do something. Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. Okay. Yeah. Wagwan. You know, like, give me your number, WhatsApp. Never heard from him in a few months. He texted me back. He says, hey, man, I want to do that song, that one right there. And it was the one, Heal My Heart. And he's like, I want to fly you to Kingston and I want to put you up and I have an album release party. And I want you to be a part of it. He's like, no Christian artists come to Jamaica without coming through me. He's like the gatekeeper. And I'm like, say no more. So his management, without him knowing, got me like on a red-eye flight, Spirit Airlines to Kingston. And I was like, I don't care, you know. I had no opportunity at the time. I'm just starting.
Yeah.
And so he flies me there. He picks me up at the airport and takes me to Spanish Town. You know, he's taking me to where like Bob Marley's studio was. All the offer, there's goats and no traffic lights and just military with militia with them M16s on the roads. This is like up in the hills and everything, you know. Right. And he's taking me to these radio stations where he's advertising his show for the following day. Keep in mind, he's maybe got like 150,000 followers on Spotify. You know, I don't know who this guy is. I'm just let's go for the adventure. And he texts me back to the hotel and he's like, hey man, I'm going to come pick you up and we're go out to the show tonight. Okay, cool. So he shows up fully dressed in white, head to toe. Like, it's like I remember looking at him like, what's up, P. Diddy? And I jump in his car and we drive like a half hour outside of Kingston. We pull up in this random parking lot and there's thousands of Jamaicans there. And he pulls up his car and it's like a splitting of the Red Sea, you know, and it's all fenced off and they haven't opened the gates yet. I'm like, dang, dude, this guy's legit. He's for real.
Yeah.
And he pulls up and the security guys won't let him in. And he rolls down the window and he's like, hey, man, look at my face, man. You know, or, oh, sorry. We go in there and I'm literally like maybe out of like 3 other white dudes in that whole place. And I got the typical like Hawaiian shirt on, man. I'm playing the role, dude. I feel like I look back at pictures. I'm like, you idiot. But, you know, and I'm sitting there and I go up and play and he had already released his album a week before.
Yeah.
And so he like earlier that day, he was just kind of promoting it and stuff. And so I get there and he does this whole set and he pulls me up towards the end. I want to do some friend. I go up there and I start singing the song with him. That, mind you, I wrote from just a simple place from my life of struggle. And all these thousands of Jamaicans lifting their hands and they're leaning on each other's hearts, or shoulders. Heal my heart, Lord. And in their little Jamaican dope accent. And I'm like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. That's what I want to do. It's like at the core of me, yeah, there's some self that I want, but I love that. My true self really loves that. And I'm okay to let that breathe in other people's lives. Well, fast forward, like COVID hits and this is like 2023. I get invited to play at this thing in Sao Paulo, Brazil called the March for Jesus, which is over 6 million people. It's a giant march they go through. They're crazy, like bold. And the city's massive. It makes New York look tiny. And I play. I'm the only American there. And they're plugging me like, this is the next Bethel, blah, blah. He's on top charts. I'm like, no way.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm not. I'm just here because of relationships that I've had with other people.
I just took a red eye. That's all I know.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there and I play in front of a couple city blocks, shoulder to shoulder, about 200 yards this way, a city block, just smashed people.
Yeah.
None of them speak a lick of English, and I sing a bunch of English songs, and it was the dopest thing in the world. I ended up bringing my daughter on stage, and I walked to the edge of the stage and ended up playing just acoustic guitar, and I wrote a song in Brazil. Dude, it was. I wasn't nervous at all. My dad used to set me up on penitentiary tables in the pen in the chow room. So I just wasn't afraid, Yeah. So I'm on this trip in Sao Paulo, and I go to eat some food afterwards. And I've been hitting up Jermaine for a long time from Jamaica because I can't get a hold of him. Like, I knew he was struggling with COVID and this and that. He was trying to find work. And he calls me back. Why I'm in Brazil? Like, the timing was weird. I'm like, Jermaine, what's up, man? Where you been? Hey, man, it's been the perfect storm, man. Like, well, come to find out. So there was this song back in like 2022 that there was this little Jamaican kid with a uniform on TikTok and like social media.
Right.
And he's sitting there and he's singing, I don't want to act too high and mighty because tomorrow I might fall down on my knees. Lord, I thank you for sunshine. Thank you for rain.
I heard it, yeah.
Thank you for joy. Thank you. Right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's called Beautiful Day. Well, this kid's name was Rashawn. I didn't realize that was Jermaine's song. Jermaine wrote that in 2015. And it's like, it's like this kind of gospel techno thing. Well, he was telling me in Brazil, he's like, hey, man, it was the perfect storm. I got this publishing deal with TuneCore. And then all of a sudden, God took what was an old thing when I had nothing. I was struggling. Took something from way back, brought it to the future, and it popped. And some school teacher just posted it. And he got Rashawn. And Rashawn's like, at the time that video came out, he was like 16, 17. He's got a deep voice.
Yeah.
That song... it took Jermaine up to like 3 million monthly listeners, millions of streams. I think he got a deal for Rashawn, the school teacher himself, changed his life. I'm like, man, Jermaine. So to see somebody from nothing to give to me and then go to something that was kind of like, he couldn't have fabricated that if he tried, And I look at that, bro, and I'm like, there's a lot of stories like that in my world, and I'm just part of that sequence
ecosystem.
Yeah. But I believe somewhere soon that like, come on, man, my time's coming. Let's go. Let's do this, Yeah. But you got to just be willing to no plan B.
Are you content if it's not?
Man, you got to ask these questions. He just went straight to the heart. My contentment's not. No. Because I know that's what I'm called to do. I know in my heart that that'll come to fruition. May not come the way I thought it would come, but I do believe it will come. And I don't feel like in my heart I'm able to like, I don't know, even give that permission in my head, you know? I don't know. I don't know if that's a selfish thing. I'm not forfeiting.
Sometimes it doesn't come the way we want it to come, though.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hear the message and, you know, the sands of, like my children, like the sands of the seas, and they try to put their own plan into action and it really work out the same way.
That's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
Like you hit a line. You struck a chord with me there because is this a therapy session?
This is therapy, baby.
Seriously, no box right here.
Just leave a tip on the table.
Yeah. No, but like I've been asking myself that question.
Yeah.
And let me backtrack. I say no because I feel like, not that I don't have any problems surrendering ultimately. I may be dragging my feet a little bit in that surrendering process. And when I look, and by looking back at my past life, like I remember dating somebody else before I dated my wife. I thought that, oh, this person, I'm going to be with her. She's the one. And then I was like, I saw some stuff. I'm like, nah, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And then the next day it was like, Anna? It was like, who was that other girl, you know? Yeah. But at that time, that was a hard thing for me to give up. Or it was a hard thing for me to give up to not be in the design world anymore and to be a worship pastor. I don't want to do music for the church, but to give that dream up of my own music and kind of forfeit, so to speak, and move into that different field. But every time that I did that, I felt like a peace. I felt like a peace in surrendering myself. And I've been thinking like, you know, I'm big on scripture, you know, like I always find when I read scripture, it like does something inside of me that I can't produce on my own accord, you know? And there's a scripture that says, I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life I live for the one who gave himself for me and loved me. And I thought, that's where he's pushing me, man. He's pushing me right there. But I know from my past that when it's hard to get Brandon into that surrender mode. But once I'm there, the thing that I want comes to fruition, man. But just in a different way. And so I kind of, when I level up each thing, when I go to the next level, it's the same thing, just at a different level of surrender. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but then I look at that and you balance that with like real life. I got to make money. I got to do this and that. And I think God's just patient. But when you say, am I content with that? I would say I'm dragging my heels. I think I know, I don't quite know. Like I still have I'm holding things maybe loosely, not holding on so tight, I'm holding them loose.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's like, you know, is that me? Is that, am I cutting myself short of what I could be? So I feel like, I'm right in that moment about ready to break forth. And usually the best music for me comes along with that, right in that area of that.
The reason I say this is because as long as I've known you, you've had this dream of.
Are you been talking to my wife?
No, this is as long as I've known. No, and as long as I've known, you've been like, when I make it, I'm going to pop off. It's going to happen. It's doing this. And you've always had this like drive, but I just don't know if you know that maybe you're that for someone else. Like you may be the actual tool that is populating the world with greatness. Like you may be that thing without it being you. Like Abraham going out and trying to force his own kid when he's supposed to have generations of children. He's like, no, I got this myself. Like 10 Let me make it happen.
I got 10 concubines. Is that what you're saying?
So my point is that
you're onto something, B. I feel you.
So my point is like, I see how you bring things together. I see you I called you glue earlier because you are. You have introduced me to one of my greatest friends of my life, right? And I see how you do that in so many other people's lives. And sometimes that's a perfect life.
You know what? It certainly is a lot easier in my industry.
But it's not even a falling short.
No, not easier in the sense of like, that's an easier option to do. It wasn't as challenging, but like it doesn't come along with like the nitty gritty of the musician, breaking your own gear down, still trying to get heard, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I know I'm a good songwriter. I know that.
Yeah.
And I keep having people come to me of significance. And I'm like, I don't know. It's like I'm shedding. I'm shedding the skin, and there's a part of me still. It's like, but I feel like I have something to offer too. I think there's a shelf life on that.
Yeah,
especially as I get older. But at least, yeah, man. I mean, I never would have dreamed I would be working with so many different people that were like, wow, that happened in a short period of time. You know. But it kind of the same thing in a lot of the business models and structures I set up, whether, I've been floating the idea of changing one of my for-profit companies into a nonprofit. Like, do I really want to suit that model? But what about making money? But part of me is like, yeah, but this would work really dope if you went into more of a giving aspect. But it's that like uncertainty that you're like, don't want to miss out.
Just wanted to say, like, first off, I hear you. Like, not just I hear you.
Yeah.
You're heard.
Yeah. Feel you,
you
bro.
said it's so hard to get out there and be heard. I'm saying I hear you. Like, the validity is there. Like, I hear you. Your message is strong. Like, the person you are, the man that you stand up as, like, I hear you. Like, that is volumes. And that means potentially much more to a larger group than you sitting on a stage with a microphone and a spotlight. Do both. I don't care, but don't minimize one for the desire of the other one.
Yeah.
Because the one that you do have that you're so gifted at, you're really good at.
Yeah.
and it lifts so many people up. Like,
I know, man.
But don't minimize that part of it. To see something out here that's like, oh, well, that'd be cool. Yeah, sure. Great. Whatever. But
it's like an idea I have in my head, But I'm one thing. My mom, she was like, my dad was like this, living life adventurously and just, he was so charismatic. And my mom and my dad was a man of faith and like, but my mom was like that tried and true, like when all that stuff fails and all that noise goes away, will you just trust God? Will you just trust him no matter what? And I think that that's a part of me that I will submit to. I'll yield to that. I will. And I think that you're right, man. It's like a give and a go, like I go some, then I get to a point where I'm like, hey, you're going too much. Fall into this vibe. But I think that I think I could live out via songs, I'm going to be making some strides in Nashville next month and pushing to kind of get in the country world a little bit more and trying to get some radio play. And I think I'm not a newbie no more, so I can kind of get in there and kind of flex a little bit, and we'll see what happens. At the end of the day, man, maybe when the check comes, I'm like, yeah, I'm cool with that.
That was easy. That's good enough. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
and then you see someone else's dreams and pop off, and you're like, you find fulfillment in something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I walked into a church in Buena Park in Los Angeles after my dad passed away back in 2013. It was maybe 2016. I walked in, and this older, she must have been in her 80s, Hispanic lady, skinny as can be, came up to me, and she's like, I miss your dad so much. Just out of nowhere, just kind of bum rushed me. And I'm like, really? You know my dad? Yeah. Her name was like Mona or something. And she's like, he used to tell me, and keep in mind, this is a little tiny church, maybe 50 people.
Yeah.
And I'm there because my dad knew the pastor and he was friends, and I'm just loving on these people. And I walked in, and the lady goes, I miss your dad. And she's like, he used to tell me, come on, Mona, you can make it. Come on, you can do it. And she was back on heroin. She's like, I miss him so much. And I'm like, man, maybe that's what my dad meant by I never wanted to be professional. Maybe that's my line. Like, I'm just trying to be this for these people. And I got a video that Bear is showing my stuff. He's like, check this out. And he's filming my video, and because Bear loved my music, and he pans over, and Teddy Swims is right there listening to it. And Teddy's like, man, listen to that.
Yeah.
Teddy's an old PK, preacher's kid. That ain't for me to be like, oh, I'm going on tour with Teddy.
Yeah.
Just for me to be like a light for Teddy, to be like, just put a seed there.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
So, things like that I think I probably do take for granted. But
yeah. Well, I'm not saying this to say don't stop reaching. Always continue to
for
reach.
sure.
But I know that you got some other irons in the fire. Like
I do, man. I have. So I've got Go Public Music. So Go Public Music is my label and production company. Go Public Studios is online. I just started these things, man, but they're quite a big of an undertaking. I went and bought a late '60s Volkswagen bus from Jacksonville, Florida, and my plan is to podcast from the bus.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take it out on the streets and kind of like my dad did. He had an old '60s Greyhound bus with a platform on the top. He'd drive around and preach from the top. I ain't looking to do that, but I am looking to just get up, no permits, rock and roll, play some music, social media. It's real, it's authentic, it's not polished.
Mm-hmm.
We're putting that out. And then if you need prayer, you need mental health help, you come in the bus. We love on you. And we're distributing goods to the poor. We're helping people build businesses down in Deep Ellum or wherever the case may be, colleges, just meeting the need, not just saying, hey, you need to change and, you need God in your life, but not even necessarily do that, but just to love on people, just so they see your love. That's what Go Public Music is about going out and so there's the front brand of that. The back side of that is on the music business side of things, where I'm producing artists that I'm probably going to be working with Bear this month, Kristen Cruz, that was with AGT. I've worked with a bunch of different people and that love the Lord. They just don't know how to do the Hollywood thing, but yet keep their sanity and keep their faith adjacent to that. And so I've walked a lot of that with artists like that. So that's Go Public. My wife's rocking her permanent cosmetics she does. And so we're also starting another business venture called, what is this called? It's brand new. True West Supply. So we are very much like kind of a little ranch with some horses. And, I'm from the Northwest and from Cali and from Portland, Oregon. But I've been in Texas for 20 years now, 21 years, and Texas got a hold of me, baby.
Yeah, I see that accent coming out.
Texas got a hold of me, and I love Texas. So the whole ranch vibe. So we're coming out with some dope gear that's like this hat I got on here right now. Member of the Country Club. My wife's got another hat called Honey's Making Money. Bestie Beauty. We got a lot of different things. That's kind of that Southwest Baja meets ranch meets entrepreneurial hustle, similar to like Sendero or Darlin, things like that are in that world. So we're doing that. And my focus though right now is really pouring into my daughter's golf game, baby. Pouring into her game, dude.
I love it.
Because bro, there's a part of me that's like, is there a part of you, bro? We could wrap it up with this, but is there a part of you that's like, yo, I wonder if I could still maybe get some of this golf game if I really did it. If I really stepped in, what could I do? Or maybe teaching, you know what I mean?
No, I mean, honestly, like...
GG, gang up at Live Golf, just a little GG.
No, I've always thought that too at the beginning, because I've not really poured a whole lot of my life into it, but I've done pretty well at it, yeah. I mean, for the average golfer, I've done way more than I should, right? For the average golfer.
Yeah, Kelly's looking over your bank statement right now.
Yeah. I mean,
I got to go right now. I got a tea time.
Statistically, like, I've played a lot of golf. In the last 5 years, I've probably played 12 rounds a year and still keep it mid-70s, right? I mean, that's, but I wish I could play more. And so my goal this year is to really pour into that. I don't want to say pour because you give up something. Like if I start pouring into this, which means a little more range time, a little more playing, whatever. What am I going to give up? Am I going to give up mimosas with my wife on Saturday morning? I don't think so, right? Like I'm still jamming that. Am I going to give up Saturdays in the pool with my family? Nah, probably not. You know what I mean? So
you would be dope though, bro, is if you do like a YouTube channel based around golf. I've been thinking about this too, like Grant Horvat or like Bob Does Sports.
Yeah.
Or Brian Bros. Dude, I'm into this thing, man. It's like kind of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But they're just having a blast, and these YouTube creative golfers are going out. We might want to jump in, put some skin in that game, baby.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's get that rolling.
Let's get it rolling, dude.
100%. Well, I just want to say thank you so much. I know we've taken this a whole bunch of different directions, and I've asked you some questions that probably are too personal to ask.
Man, I'm an open book for sure. I think it'll help somebody, and I'm coming out with some new music this year for sure on myself. But keep a lookout for what I'm doing. I ain't your average square. I'm unorthodox when it comes to Christian world, and so I do that purposefully because I want to. In the same way that my dad would teach or try to preach outside the bar, I get to go in them.
Yeah. And drop
so,
some bars.
Same love. Drop some bars, baby.
Well, I'll say this. Again, everybody, Brandin Reed, musical genius.
With an I, Brandin. Thanks, Mom.
You're welcome for that. The Explorer. Peace out.